So if I want to show these mountains, and I'm going to go over yellow, and I want them to be sort of grayish. What's the opposite of yellow?
Purple.
Purple. So I can kind of mix up, maybe even use this blue again, repeat that blue and mix it with a little bit of this red and get that kind of a purpley color and go over this as a kind of graded wash. I think I will try not to go over the tree, but to do each side separately, which makes it a little trickier. And go over, make this the darkest and then grade it down. And then when that dries, or I can dry that, then do a second layer of mountains where it's a little bit darker and going down, or maybe make this more greenish. But again, lots of decisions to make about where I really want to go with this. So I think I'll stick with that idea. And remember, it's only a piece of paper, even though you've got a lot of invested in it already. So let's go with that manganese blue and cobalt and mix it with this reddish color that's already there. So we've already got a little bit of a grayish blue here. And I don't know how I like that. So what I could do, let's try this. So have some test places, which I should have thought of doing that already, and just see how the different colors look. Okay, so we'll see how this purpley gray looks on top of that. It looks pretty caca. So let's change our plan here. Let's try some just the blue by itself, and it'll turn kind of green. I'll make it a little bit dull.
Oh yeah, it's pretty.
I think I like that a little bit better. So let's see what happens here. So I'll mix the two blues again with a little bit of that purple. And it's kind of a big brush, so maybe I'll go down to the 3/4 inch. Okay. So my plan is to do a graded wash. So I'm going to go across full strength on the top, dip it in some water and overlap that first strip and keep going down right over this line. And then I'll do the same thing on the other side. And I can see this yellow is glowing through because this is transparent. The idea is to try and get it across in one stroke. Dip it in and dab it on the sponge so I didn't get too much water there, and overlap it. And dip it in again and continue to overlap it all the way down. Kind of go vertical here. And now I'm just going to do plain water because I don't want to interrupt my explosive field down here too much. So I'll do the same thing on this side. Keep adding more water, get it more transparent. And I can actually lift a little bit in these mountains. See how I'm. You see what I just did to show a little bit of sunlight.
Okay.
Okay, so there's some distant mountains. I'll dry this again and do the second layer of mountains and maybe go in just with more pure blue to not be quite as gray. But that yellow will still show through. Can you see the yellow underpainting still coming through those mountains? So let's just go with no red in it this time. It'll just be the blue of the flag. And a little darker. So it's going to be more like this. Dip in water, dab it on the sponge and overlap it. Dip in water. Actually just rinse out the brush completely so it's just water. And just kind of smooth it down. And sometimes I go back up again to smooth it a little bit more. Getting some backgrounds here, unfortunately.
What was the blue?
It was manganese mixed with a little cobalt.
Okay, for the second layer.
Yes, and that's exactly what I used here. But look at the difference because we're mixing the underpainting with it. So it'd be just like mixing that blue and yellow right on my palette, only it's layered on top of the paint layer. So now the last thing I want to show you before we end up is what my tree color is going to look like on top of the yellow. And this is all kind of a surprise. You know, you sort of go in with a knowledge of color theory. I know that if I put purple on top of yellow, it's going to turn kind of a muted color. If I put red on top of this, it'll turn orange and so on. If I put blue on it, it'll turn green. So I'm thinking more of a purple, a reddish purple, which is kind of what I used up here. I used orange over the blue. So if I go purple over the yellow, I might get a similar kind of brown. But to me, it doesn't matter if it's exactly the same tree color because there is a transition, right? This is the line of demarcation here that changes or this is where it starts to go into the peaceful world from the, the scary world. So it's okay if the tree color changes, in my mind, that symbolism. Okay, so again, I have my little yellow swatch here. And so I'm going to try and mix purple. And so I'll go with some red here, some permanent rose, and some cobalt blue. And that is a bright, bright purple, you see here. So let's see what will happen when it goes over yellow. It's pretty cool. If I want to warm it up, maybe I should add a little bit more yellow to it. And that might make it a little more of a tree color. Or go in, instead of this cool cobalt, I'll go in with the warmer, more greenish manganese. And so the purple is a little bit of more of a mauve. And that might make it work a little bit better. So let's try that. And it's all a crapshoot, really. So hopefully this is dry enough. I can rest my hand on it now. So let's go from here. And this is very brown. And let's see what happens. It's definitely a different color, isn't it? Maybe I'll throw a little more yellow in it. But again, I'm not too concerned if it changes color too much. Get a bigger. So we have a sort of a reddish purple. Got to be careful where I stop because I don't want to stop somewhere where it's going to look too obvious. And I keep changing color too, which is maybe okay.
What is the red?
That was permanent rose, but I was also dipping in a little of the orange too, Scarlet Lake, more of a reddish. So it's changing as I move down the trunk a little bit, which is okay. And again, I'm holding my brush like a pencil and resting my wrist on the paper to give me a little more control. And I'm kind of pulling it toward me rather than trying to go up away from me. And just kind of tracing the edge and then moving. Now, the other thing I'm realizing here is I had definition as to which branch was in the front, because there's some overlapping, and I'm losing that now. Like I can't see if there's a line, because I'm covering up all the lines. So I'll have to come up with a solution to that, or just not even worry about it. As soon as something, use the biggest brush possible until it feels too cumbersome, and then shoot down to a smaller one. So now I've got to get into a smaller brush. Now here, there's one of these overlapping the other, but I'm not seeing it. So I could end up, I even had thought about doing a white outline around everything with masking fluid. So I could decide, do I want to lift a little bit where something is overlapping something else and making it stand out more? I'll just have to decide that later on. And then I haven't really figured out if I am going to use this sunflower stamp, where's it going to be? Could it be down the middle of the tree? Is it going to be in the four corners? Is it going to be, following? I don't think I'd want to do a border at this point, but it does seem like maybe in a negative space where it'll fit. Now, it's kind of at the magic moment stage, so I could scrape in there and show tree trunk, show texture of the wood, but I don't think I want to. Now, can you guys see that this is a different color than that? The branches up there, it's a little hard to tell, but it did shift color. If I want to, if it's bothering me, I could continue in with this more bluish, but it actually might change again because it's going over a different color. But I kind of like where I kept changing the mixture. I like how that happened. So I've got a lot to think about as this progresses, and I put it up or put it down on the floor and look at it from far away. And once these peace signs are in here, just spilled water here. Darn it. Hopefully there's going to be branches covering that. Yeah, be careful about water dripping on places where you've already painted. Anyway, let's I'm going to stop the recording now. We'll come back to real life here.